is up, everybody? Enderheart here, back with Cipher Secret, and today we will be reading Chapter 29, Into the Nightmare Realm, Part 4. The arc is Fallen Royalty, and this is, fuck. I'm not ready. Okay. Mentally prepping myself because my throat fucking hurts, and this will be Dipper. God damn it! Wake up, man! Dipper immediately snapped out of his dreamlike state after Dana slapped him in the cheek, rather harshly, and made him fall to the floor, covering him in snow. Dipper blinked twice before his hand landed on his cheek that Dana had just hit, trying to soothe the pain that came right after. How did she have so much strength for a girl? Oh, wait. Half-demon. Oh, right. Ow! Dana, what? Ow! Dipper gritted his teeth and shot Dana a glare. I like slapping people. You were the first, but not the last, she answered mysteriously, and rather stupidly, too. Everybody shot her glaze, even the mentors. Beatrice was starting to question her own choice of agreeing to let Dana join this little field trip. What? Are you gonna sue me now? She asked, raising her hands in the air. Come on, arrest me. Kinessi rolled his eyes and snapped his fingers. Dana's wrists were handcuffed. Hey! She protested. You asked for it, Kinessi said simply. I didn't mean it literally. It was sarcasm. She complained, trying to free herself from the handcuffs, but it was no use. Azef immediately noticed they were demon-proof, as he had heard before. Or half-demon-proof. Dipper rolled his eyes. Go figure. I'm a demon. I have no sense of sarcasm, Kinessi retorted. I sense sarcasm in this phrase, Daniel murmured. Can we just go, please? Azef asked, and their little journey continued, but it left Dipper thinking. What had happened? Why were all those strange dreams haunting him? What were they all trying to tell him? Why him, out of all people? Why only him? But the thing that really got him was that he was awake the whole time. It was like he had awoken from a trance, which meant he hadn't slept at all. Just like what happens when Bill doesn't use the mindscape, Dipper noted. Dana, stop singing this, an annoyed Azef said, while Dana started singing a random song in a random language. Even Dipper had to admit it was annoying. Come on, Af. You like it, don't deny, Dana pointed out with a smirk. Do you even know what it talks about? Azef rolled his eyes when Dana shrugged. He leaned against her and whispered something in her ear. Dana's eyes widened and her lips curled into a smile, and she started to literally shout the song's lyrics for God and the world to hear, causing Daniel to spin on his heels and shoot her a glare. Beatrice rolled her eyes and while murmuring something among the lines, fuck my immortal life. And all of this while Azef had a fuck, what have I just done face. Dipper sighed. I'm so starting to regret this. He's been acting really strange lately. That was what Anne had said after closing her notebook. Azef had been acting very strange for the past few days. He had always been an antisocial kid, burying his face deep in books and encyclopedias, even using thick glasses, a completely stereotypical nerd. That is, until a few months before all of this. One day, Azef entered the house with two red-haired kids, apparently twins, one boy and one girl. Soon enough, Azef started hanging out with them and going out alone. Anne had doubted if Azef would ever leave the house for once. Anne had to admit that Summerfield wasn't exactly the most exciting place ever. She really didn't like living there, or at least not for the first weeks, but she began to get used to it. Azef had already adapted to the place for its calmness and the library. The nearest town wasn't really any different. Gravity Falls was just as calm and as boring as Summerfield. However, that was just what Anne had thought. To go from Summerfield to Gravity Falls and vice versa, you had two options, a calm road or dreadful forest. Most people who actually wanted to live go throughout the road, usually to visit friends or acquaintances. Why do I, out of all people, care? Anne didn't know. She had a deep hatred for Azef and his mother, for Azef's whole family side, to be precise. She had stolen her father from her mother. Anne hated both of them for this. But after their parents died, nothing had ever been the same. Anne, a now 18-year-old, was legally Azef's guardian, which meant she could do anything she wanted with him. But why didn't she feel like it? Why did she feel like torturing him was more of an obligation than an actual hobby? No, said Anne between gritted teeth. I hate him. He'll never be my brother. But perhaps she could be wrong. Here we are, the Nightmare Realm. Dipper immediately looked up upon hearing the words that he was so eager to hear. They were in front of an all-white wall. The apprentices blinked There was nothing there but a wall that apparently had no ending, extending to both sides and seemingly turning around at a certain point, forming a circle. Everybody stopped staring at the wall to stare at the mentors, trying to read their minds to see if there was some kind of prank, but they were as serious as ever. Pardon me, Mentor Kinessi, but what is that? Azaf said with a serious face. Kinessi rolled his eyes at them. It's a wall. Well, no shit, everybody thought. And this wall is the main border between the human and demon world. Humans won't be able to pass, and if they try, the wall will feel like an iron wall. To half demons, it feels like pudding or water, depending on how far your genetics go. To pure-blooded demons, it feels like air. Everybody stared at him again, knowing that that explanation was somewhat unnecessary. But did that mean they still weren't in the nightmare realm? Dipper was really confused at this. In case you were wondering, hell and the nightmare realm aren't exactly the same thing. We're in hell right now, or most likely a part of it. The true nightmare realm is inside that wall. Everybody stared harder at him. What are you waiting for? Dana, eager to do something ever since she saw the boring white wall, grabbed a pebble near her and threw it at the wall. Everybody's eyes widened when the pebble actually bounced back. Barely hit Daniel's face. He dodged it, who let out a not-so-manly scream and passed right through Bill's body. Why did it bounce back? Hold on. Oh, a pebble isn't a demon. It's not even sentient. But does that mean whoever tries to charge against the wall will bounce back too? Dipper questioned himself. Awesome! Let's do it again! Dana shouted as she prepared to get another pebble when Azaf charged against her and both fell against the wall, passing right through it. Holy crap, this works! Daniel cursed silently. Guys, come on! They heard Dana unnecessarily shout from across the wall. You have to see this! It's awesome! I almost shit my pants when I saw it! Dipper was trying not to facepalm or even laugh at this, and Daniel would have face-desked if there was a desk to hit his head with. Bill was laughing soundly, while Beatrice and Kinessi had a poker face. Well, it seemed like that to the apprentices, since they don't have mouths in their demon forms. Dana, there's something amazing called indoor voice. Learn how to use it, Daniel scolded. We can hear you just fine. Good! She shouted back, double facepalm. Dipper stepped in front of the wall and took a deep breath. Would it hurt? Would it tickle? It was definitely going to be like one of those Harry Potter movies where they go through the wall and end up in another place. Perhaps they would end up on a train station? No. Hell should be a frightening place. Why would they ever have a train station? Also, demons can just teleport at their will. They wouldn't need something like this. Closing his eyes, Dipper extended his hand and passed it through the portal. The sensation was that his hand was going through half-frozen water. How strange. But the sensation wasn't that bad. Perhaps this wasn't going to be so bad after all. Dipper shouted when he was pulled through the wall. The first thing that came to his mind was that he was being kidnapped or something, and he slightly panicked with the thought, especially because this was hell. Anything could happen. But when he fully went through the wall, falling on his back and landing on soft grass, he was revealed that it was Dana who had pulled his hand as she was visibly laughing at him. Dipper blushed a bit and tried to hide it. That shout was intentional, he lied. Of course, Dana said, waving her hand dismissively. Soon enough, Daniel went through the wall with his eyes closed, waiting for any impact or physical and mental damage, while the mentors followed behind him. Two of them were actually serious about this, while the one left seemed slightly amused. Dipper could understand why, though. If you tried to throw a pebble through the border of Gravity Falls in Summerfield, it wouldn't kick back. However, that was nearly Gravity Falls nor Summerfield. When he turned around, however, Dipper could perfectly understand why Dana was so surprised. The place the group of apprentices plus their mentors, were facing was literally a perfect copy of Dubai. Just 2 times better. There were skyscrapers everywhere, plus tall buildings and lots of high-tech stores, too much for even Azaf to count. Perhaps this was why he had been quiet all this time. There was a gigantic hospital nearby. Why do demons need a hospital? Dipper questioned himself in his mind, but couldn't answer his own question. I'll tell you later, sapling. There was an answer he received, obviously from Bill. Dipper bit his lip, trying to accept that his mind wasn't safe from Bill, or any other cipher, with regret hitting him hard. Bill had done that before, entering his mind without his consent, and doing things that would probably scar him for eternity. Could that count as mind rape? Maybe? Why did he feel so bad about this? More importantly, why did he feel so happy about this as well? He felt so confused. He analyzed the nightmare realm more deeply. There were demons going around, in some shapes that he couldn't really describe without having to draw or invent words. But the awkward thing was that some of them were in their human forms. Dipper could see children playing around with a human-shaped doll, and playing means pretending to torture the doll with violet, green, and scarlet red flames like it was a living creature. Dipper unwillingly quivered. The sky was a clear baby blue, and there were very few clouds, and the weather was pleasant. The grass that completely covered the floor, there was zero pavement, was a very green color that Dipper had only seen in the computer screen, with the sweet smell of lavender. It would have been a very beautiful landscape if there wasn't demons roaming around. As soon as Dipper noticed that, the mentors snapped their fingers and switched into their human forms, startling Daniel, who was closest to them. "All right, let's go," Kinesty said as he began walking towards a gigantic matter that was at the end of the city. Dipper analyzed it better and found that it wasn't a manor. It was a castle. "Hey," Dana complained 2 minutes after they started walking. Azef, Daniel, and Dipper were ready to groan. "Aren't you going to give us a tour? I mean, I was expecting more chaos and people screaming everywhere. This place is better than New York. Where's the free tour?" she whined. "What do you think this is? Willy Wonka's chocolate factory? We don't have time for tours. We have more urgent matters to attend to," Beatrice said sternly. Dana pouted, but shut her mouth, thankfully. While walking, a demon in their human form ran into Dipper, as both were shoved onto the floor by impact. Dipper was expecting the impact to hurt, but surprisingly it didn't. After opening his eyes, they landed exactly on the girl that had hit him. Their eyes met. She was very skinny, with a dark skin color and black short curly hair tied in a poorly made bun. She was wearing a white tank top and black shorts. Her eyes were a very dark brown color, almost black. She seemed to be almost the same age as Dipper. Upon noticing that they were staring at each other, she blushed. "I'm so sorry! Sorry!" She apologized in a small voice, but standing up hesitantly, extending her hand to Dipper. He gladly accepted the help. "It's okay," Dipper said, rubbing the back of his head. "It kind of was my fault, too." Actually, it wasn't, but he just wanted to make the girl feel better. She nodded with a small smile. Azef looked around and noticed that Dipper was gone. He spun on his heels and saw Dipper talking to a girl. His eyes began wandering towards them, carefully checking his surroundings. Everything was new to him. He wanted to notice every detail that came across his eyesight. My name is Maria," the girl began with a thick Scottish accent, but was interrupted by Azef. "Dipper, you're going to get lost," he said in a emotionless tone, like he didn't even care. Why did he have to act like he didn't give a shit to anything? Perhaps it was just his way of living, but why? That's what he wanted to know. "Because you establish a personality for yourself. You can't change, can you?" Azaf thought bitterly, almost sure that he was contradicting himself. It's okay. I'll catch up with you guys later," Dipper assured. "If you say so." Azaf then turned around and began to follow the mentors and the two amazed twins to the giant castle at the end of the town. Dipper turned around, and behind Maria was a girl running with straight blonde hair and large bangs that covered her forehead, blue eyes, pale skin, and quite chubby, quite the opposite of Maria. Everything indicated that she was older than Maria. She turned around and saw the girl running after her. She looked shocked. "Sylviana, I told her not to follow me," she murmured. Dipper looked at her, then looked at the blonde. "Sylviana, is that her name?" And just after Dipper thought that, Sylviana stopped and tried to catch her breath. Dipper and Maria stared at her when she raised a finger, as if saying, "Just hang on a second. Let me recover all the oxygen I lost while running." "Sylviana, are you okay?" Maria asked carefully, extending her hands to touch Sylviana, but she just slapped her hand away after recovering herself. "It's Gazelle, Maria!" Sylviana, or Gazelle, scolded in a British accent. Sorry." Maria looked down in shame. Dipper looked at Sylviana. "So, who are you two? Are you dream demons or something?" he asked carefully. If they were demons, what he was really starting to doubt, that meant they were dangerous, especially if they were full-blooded ones. He was just half a demon, which he really wanted not to be true, but the wall border he just crossed had already given him enough proof that he was one of them. He slightly shuddered at the thought. Bill's kind. If he was only half dream demon, that meant he couldn't fight a fully developed demon, even in the form of a shy girl and a fat one. "Not really. The sapling here is my adoptive sister, Maria. I'm Sylviana, but I'd rather be called Gazelle. You can clearly see that we're kind of different from each other. And, well, we're half demons too, and apprentices like you, but we're actually Cosmos demons, instead of dream demons," Gazelle explained. Did you just say Cosmos demons?" Dipper asked, raising an eyebrow. He'd already heard that there were other types of demons around, such as forest demons that were supposed to freak the hunters out of their wits and take care of the animals, while the angels took care of the fauna and any natural threats. From what he remembered, and made sure to remember, Gazelle and Maria exchanged glances, mentally deciding who should explain it this time. And so, Maria sighed. It was her turn now. Well, Maria began speaking in a small tone, clearing her throat. The dream demons take care of humans' minds and dreams. Forest demons take care of the animals and the hunters. We, cosmos demons, take care of the universe and make sure everything's in order. And most of the time, to cause some chaos as well. But I don't really like to cause chaos. Maria was interrupted by Gazelle. Oh, I love causing chaos. Normal humans' reactions are so funny when they think a meteor is going to hit the Earth. She laughed and stopped after some seconds. What a shame. Our powers aren't strong enough to cause an actual Armageddon. Tough shit this is, she shrugged. Suddenly they turned around and saw a demon in the shape of a flower staring at them. We got to go now. See, Dipper, he answered with a smile. Dipper Pines. Yeah, right, Gazelle answered. Oh, wait, Dipper called just when they were both about to go away. What is it now? Gazelle groaned. Why are you called Gazelle exactly? He asked calmly. She said nothing for a while, and both Dipper and Maria thought she wasn't going to answer. But surprisingly, Gazelle lifted her bangs without uttering a sound and revealing 6 black dots across her forehead, all of them in perfect symmetry. 1 pair of each, 2 dots for each one, making them 3 pairs. Dipper immediately understood that this was the same in his case. The case of the Big Dipper. The 3 leaps of Gazelle. Hello? Dipper looked around. He was inside of a dark room with no furniture. There were 4 mirrors hanging on each wall, looking as old as time itself. He could hardly see, and, to make things worse, the place was very cold. He only had his t-shirt, shorts, and socks on. There were 2 flights of wood-made stairs in front of him, and it seemed as if they were about to fall apart. Dipper shivered from the cold and the sensation that something was wrong. Why did this have to happen every time? Couldn't he have peace for once? He began walking forward until he stepped on something. Looking down, Dipper saw a piece of paper on the floor. There was something written in it, and even in the dark, he could clearly see the letters. Dipper bit his lip. Did he really want to read it? Should he stay like this and wait until he woke up in the morning? Maybe he should do the latter, right? But Dipper just couldn't resist. He had to read the paper. Focusing on it, Dipper noted how the letters were blurry, but still readable. You're not alone. Anne Collins hated Azaph Horth. She hated him with every fiber of her body, didn't she? Well, she heard that her father, Joseph Collins, was marrying a woman whom she had never heard of before, and even worse, she had a son, and felt infuriated. How could her father betray her mother like that? Oh, her mother. Aline Jenkins was simply the best woman in the world, the best cook, the best storyteller, the best teacher, the best mother. Anne's world fell apart when she was diagnosed with cancer. A few years later, Aline died. It was the worst day of Anne's life. The second worst day of Anne's life was when, a few days later, Joseph found another woman, Amilla Horth, whom had a small child, Azaph Horth, no older than 9 at the time, while Anne was then a 15-year-old teenager. She hated Azaph the moment she laid eyes on him. He was a shy kid, almost never talked, and was barely heard. She began to believe that he was mute until she heard him reading out loud an entire encyclopedia. What a nerd, she thought at the time. Azaph's grades were impeccable. There were A+S, There were A+, A-, and B+, but none of his grades were under a B+. Joseph thought he was the perfect child, even better than Anne, but that was just because of his amazing job at school. Azaph had no friends, nobody would hang out with him. He was perfectly fine with this. I have my books, I don't need anyone else, he said. Anne always thought Azaph was a strange kid, but hearing him say that he didn't need friends was just so wrong and odd. Azaph perhaps was the creepiest kid she had ever met, honestly. He was a blunt, emotionless, lacked empathy, and acted like a robot. She always thought all kids were cheerful, loud, and annoying, but Azaph seemed to be an exception. He was always seen reading a book, really complex books, like War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, but not even once had he talked to anybody other than her, Joseph, or Amilla. After 1 year, Joseph married Amilla, and Anne was forced to go to the wedding. For some reason, they never really acted romantically or anything, and never kissed, not even once. Anne found that really strange, but didn't dare talk about it. A few months later, her name changed to Anne Horth Collins, and she so hated her name. After that, everything returned to normal, or so she thought. And then it happened. During their summer vacations, Azaph began to act stranger than he actually did before. The first signals of strangeness was when he started talking to the nothing, like he was having a conversation with a real person. Azaph was too old to have an imaginary friend, and even he agreed, imaginary friends are for people who don't have anything better to do. He stated emotionlessly when she confronted him about it, and that was exactly where the problem starts. Azaph never had any reason to start having imaginary friends, and certainly couldn't see ghosts. seeing that he never believed in paranormal activities. Anne knew something, though. If, in a crowded room, everybody in that room ever saw something move by itself, Azaf would be the first to run. Even though he was emotionless like a statue, he still had a weakness. The two of them being his social awkwardness and a fear of paranormal creature. So why did he start acting so strange? When Anne turned 18, Azaf's parents decided to take a 12-year-old Azaf to a camping trip for a few days, giving Anne plenty of time all by herself and permission to do whatever she wanted, as long as she didn't cause any chaos around the town or destroy the house, which she was planning to enjoy with a few friends in a sleepover. 2 days later, she received a call from the police. Her parents had died from unknown circumstances, and Azaf, who was the only witness, refused to tell how they died. Apparently, the police thought the kid was mentally scarred, but he wasn't. Azaf refused to talk because he knew they wouldn't understand. That was when Azaf began to search books and information about paranormal creatures in Gravity Falls' library, since Summerfield didn't have one. He began working at part-time jobs, and when he had enough money, bought a thick notebook and began writing as much information as he could about everything that caught his eye. He even bought a book about myths called Myths and Facts, The Door to the Unknown, a book that Anne tried reading but gave up after a few paragraphs on the first page. Then one day, he arrives with 2 children around his age, 1 boy and 1 girl, both identical in appearance, and the most notable features were their red hair and green eyes. After meeting them, Dana and Danielle, apparently that was their names, Azaf began to talk more, being more social and even crack some jokes, though it was rare. It's not like Anne was spying on him, of course not. But sometimes, as Azaf's legal guardian, she had to make sure he wasn't, well, killing anyone. Though Azaf still kept some of his old characteristics, the emotionlessness wasn't one of them anymore. But he was still the same walking Wikipedia as always, but now he was friendlier, more active, and still hated him. He would never be her brother. After all, that's why she made a punishment room if he disobeyed her, right? She even wrote something to scare him. All play and no work makes Azaf a lazy boy. Azaf, being the young rebel, as Anne liked to call him, he never seemed to mind that. That was until one thing happened. The day a red X made of his own blood appeared under the writing. "Here we are, the castle," Beatrice announced, trying to hide the anger in her voice. Just as she said it, Dipper managed to catch up with the group just in time to hear Beatrice's statement. After she said that, the trio of dream demons snapped their fingers and turned into their human forms, but they were slightly different than before. Bill now had longer hair that went until the end of his back, tied in a ponytail. The same thing happened with Knessi, but he didn't have his hair tied in a ponytail like Bill. Beatrice's hair was long enough for her to be misunderstood as the blue-haired version of Rapunzel, tied in enormous golden hair elastics. Their clothes remained the same as ever. "Whoa, did you guys just turn into Super Saiyans or something?" Dana asked excitedly. Beatrice sighed. "This is our human form in the nightmare realm. It changes according to our power, which becomes stronger when we enter this realm. This also happens to you, but since you're younger than us and only have half of our power, you don't need this kind of transformation. Though your powers will increase as well, not as much as ours. But I'm sure you'll understand what I'm saying. If we didn't have this transformation, our powers would stay out of control, and we'd most likely cause havoc," Knessi explained. All the apprentices stared at him, their eyes read, "Please sum this up." "Let's just end this, okay?" Beatrice pleaded. Soon they passed through a bridge that led into the castle with a purple river under it, and when they did, the first thing the group encounters is a pair of demons at each side of the main door that led them inside of the castle. Both of them were a pitch black color and had a strange, unsettling shape that was always changing for some reason. Their eyes were small red circles, and their gaze was enough to guarantee the apprentices a few nights of nightmares. They were holding metal sticks, or at least what they looked to be. They're the castle guards. They're an unknown type of demon that pledged their loyalty to the leader. Their appearance keeps intruders away. You don't want to know what they do to your mind if they catch you. Dipper shuddered in disturbance. He already had one experience with unsettling nightmares. He didn't need another one. The demons shifted their gaze to the mentors and hit the floor with their sticks, creating a black wave around the castle that made the apprentices shudder when it passed through them. After the command, the door opened itself right after, allowing the mentors and apprentices to pass. The mentors began to walk towards the door. "Don't look them directly in the eye," Bill warned, before any of the apprentices could move. "Do you want to try and find out?" Beatrice suggested with a mocking smile. "Thanks, but no thanks. I like my soul," Daniel answered. "Good for you," Knessi replied sarcastically. "I'm a demon. I have no sense of sarcasm." As if mimicked him mockingly, Kinessi just rolled his eyes, but a small smile formed on his lips. Just as the group arrived at a large room with circle-made walls that shone with the light from outside, reflecting their appearances in a funny and distorted way, the mentors had stopped walking, and so they stood in the middle of the room. Dipper looked around more. Under him, there was a red carpet that extended itself to the whole room and had undeciphered codes on it, each one more complex than the previous. There were 4 pillars made of marble on each corner of the room, filled with the same codes Dipper had seen on the carpet. 2 blood-red chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Their sharp edges made them look even more threatening. There were 3 gigantic medieval windows, all of them in one wall except for one where the exit was, showering the room with light. Dipper looks up to see a throne at the end of the room, with a shadowy figure sitting on it. With its blood-red eyes and body completely covered in shadows, in the shape of a human being, but not quite one, the creature was quite scary and threatening. Dipper felt a shiver just by looking at it. The 3 mentors stepped forward, and their apprentices behind them, hiding and left to stare at the horrifying creature in front of them. It opened its mouth to speak, and its voice was of a normal human being, with no alterations, but the calmness in his voice left the apprentices and mentors in anxiety. "Well, well, well, what do we have here?" it asked itself in a strong, mocking tone that echoed through the room. "Seems like we have visits, don't we? What a surprise!" Beatrice's eye twitched with the voice as it was trying her best not to snap at him. The creature then looked at the children behind the mentors. "Oh, and you've brought children as well. Halflings, I presume?" The mentors didn't answer. Instead, they just stepped behind in a protective manner to prevent their apprentices from harm. "You've become quite shy from the last time I've seen you, Ciphers." "No, we've become more aware of your true nature, Lucifer," Kinessi replied. Dipper's eyes widened. "Lucifer? That's the devil?" he thought to himself, the question dancing in his tongue, eager to be asked, but he kept quiet, listening to the conversation. He knew he shouldn't ask questions, especially now. Dipper, unlike Mabel, knew when he should be quiet. His mind practically screamed, "Shut up, shut up, shut up!" "Oh, I see. I know I'm not trusted enough for you, Ciphers. I know when I'm not wanted. But you're on my territory now, you see," Lucifer said with a mocking and confident tone. Neither Dipper nor the other apprentices thought the devil would be so calm like this. "So, as my hosts, it is my duty to make sure you feel at home and obey my rules. I suppose you remember what happened last time, don't you?" "I see. However, we come for a reason, not just to play another one of your stupid mind games," Bill said with a poker face. "Well, before you explain yourselves, as well as the children behind you, I must say it's nice to see you again," Lucifer said. If it had a mouth, Dipper didn't know, but he could feel its grin upon them. Perhaps this was the punishment for all of his sins. If hell was like that, he didn't want to live there anymore. Did he ever want to before? Maybe, but not anymore. Lucifer ruled hell, and Lucifer was scary as fuck. Beatrice scowled at it, but then sneered. "I'm afraid we can't say the same, Father."